definitely in a descriptive type questions in what is called environmental impact assessment. Yeah. Environmental impact assessment. It's called EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment. Under environmental impact assessment, we shall first of all define what it is. Definition of environmental impact definition. And then what are the components of environmental impact assessment? Then what are the outcomes of environmental impact assessment? Up to this point, we shall discuss. So first, recap of the previous class. If you recall, in the previous class, we had described various cycles: hydrological cycle, nitrogen cycle, carbon cycle, phosphorus cycle. We talked a little about the power plant engineering also, which is coal-based thermal power plant. We talked about the modalities very brief overview as to how the power plants, coal-based power plants, which is still predominant in all over the world, polluting the environment. Now, suppose you do the environmental impact assessment and you say that close down everything. So environment will be all right. Is it possible? No. Answer is no. So therefore, that's why the world leaders are meeting quite often. And all of you know that COP26, I guess, COP26 is happening. Our Prime Minister has also gone there. These are all the efforts around the globe to curb the pollution, to bring the Mother Earth back to normalcy. Now, the question normalcy mean many things to many people. Okay. That we have discussed about that those cycles we had discussed in the previous class. Why it is important to understand the cycles? Because there is a natural equilibrium for every element, or for that matter, for the nutrients, all other things, which based on which all the human beings and all other creatures they survive on this planet. Now, so those things we have discussed in the last class. Today we shall discuss. Now we will take on what is called environmental impact assessment. Impact assessment. All the human activities, whatever we do, there is a unemployment. We have to do industrialization. There is a power shortage. We have to produce power, generation of electricity. Whenever there is a demand, we have to fulfill those demands in order for the civilization to progress. The debate is that what you call is civilization and what you call it as progress. There may be a debate on that one, but then let's talk about in clear, dry terminologies as to what is called environmental impact assessment. I'll just read out. Environmental impact assessment is it is basically, it is, suppose you have got a planned activity that is happening. I don't know how many of you remember the Singur episode. I think you were very, at that point of time, you were probably infant, way back in 2008. Today is 2021, that means 13 years. You were probably 17 to 18. Maybe at that point of time, you were 5 or 6 years of age. You don't remember much, and naturally, you don't recall. Those who are from Calcutta, okay. Nano plant in the Singur, it was about to be set up. That was the last term of the previous government, that is left front government. Buddhadev Bhattacharya was very keen on bringing the industrial revolution into the West Bengal. We were on the threshold of a total facelift of the Bengal economy, but suddenly, then when everything is it is about to be inaugurated, at that point of time, when 90% of the plant work was done, then suddenly there was a decline. Tatas had to leave. All these things. What I am talking of is that whenever you try to it was not because of environmental impact assessment that Nano leaving the plant. Nano leaving Bengal is not as a result of Nano leaving Bengal is not as a result of environmental impact assessment. It was because of some other reason. But anyway, environmental impact assessment, it is basically your planned activities. What does it impact on the biodiversity, vegetation, ecology, water, and air? What is the impact? So we can say that in EIA, we short form, we shall keep on writing, environmental impact assessment is described as an assessment of the impact of the planned activities of the planned of humankind on the environment which includes biodiversity, then your vegetation, then ecology, then your water and air. Environment. So this is the classical definition. Environmental impact assessment is described as an assessment of the impact of the planned activities. This is important. Planned activities of the humankind on the environment, which includes biodiversity, vegetation, ecology, water, and air. So ultimately, you will, time and again, you will come to the conclusion that it is the human activities which is actually responsible for the degradation of the environment. All other animals, they do it naturally. Whatever they do it naturally. They are not aware of the situation, whether it is impacting or not impacting, whether they will die one day. They are not aware of such things. Only human beings are aware that one day they will die, they have taken birth, they will sustain for some time, and one day they will die. Some people, of course, they think that they will be here for long. I mean, they will never die. In fact, I used to also think that let everybody die. I'm not going to go from here. But that was long back. So I have come out from that. Anyway, let us not
Sir,
go
some
in.
people are waiting outside.
Okay, all right. Thank you for reminding me. Some people are waiting. They are welcome. They are welcome. So the initial euphoria is gone. Initially, I had a class strength of about 64, 65, up to 70. It had gone. Now it has come down to 23. Of course, it's a festival time, so there are reasons that people stay away from the class. No problem. Okay. So environmental impact assessment is described as an assessment of the impact of the planned activities of humankind on the environment, which includes biodiversity, vegetation, ecology, water, and air. Whenever you set up a factory, let us say, for example, you set up a factory, you have to what does the factory produce? What are the disposals it is expected to throw into the atmosphere? Therefore, how much entropy you are going to increase. What I mean to say is that we shall use the technical language, because technical language, if you use, people think that you are a knowledgeable person. Entropy of the universe is increasing. So if you, instead of pollutants, if you say entropy is increasing, so your salability increases. Anyway, so suppose you are establishing a manufacturing plant, and therein, suppose it's a nano factory. Okay, nano factory. What does it do? It produces vehicles. What are the hazardous activity out here? Hazardous activity is that there are paints activities, chemicals that they will be using. The paint shop, that the effluent they will be throwing into the environment. Now, so the kind of chemicals that will be thrown into the atmosphere, what is the impact of that chemicals if it is not treated? Well, of course, there are rules and regulations. Before setting up a factory, you have to take an environmental clearance. The environment assessment officer will assess the situation, and as per the standard guideline, as per the national and international guideline, and they give you finally the signal to go ahead with the project. So therefore, the impact of your activities, or let us say you are trying to build a dam. Yeah, I mean, long ago, the Sardar Sarovar project in Gujarat, it was in turmoil for quite some time, and then finally it happened. And now, if that big dam is being produced, the cost and the benefit, and that you have to calculate what is the cost and what is the benefit. Now, in this cost, not only the financial cost, but also the environmental cost, the impact of the project on the health and rehabilitation of the people, large amount of people that will be displaced from nearby site, that has to be assessed. This is called the environmental impact assessment. Actually, the environmental impact assessment is designed to identify the potential risk of the project. That means, so you have to assess, basically, assessment of various risks that are involved with the plant activities assessment of various risks that are involved with the plant activities so let us say, for example, also you have to assessment of various risks that are involved with the plant activities and measures how to mitigate, another word would be reduce. Assessment of various risks that are involved with the plant activities and the measures how to mitigate the impact on environment. Time and again, I am telling you that when we are talking of an environment, anything outside of the system, for example, in thermodynamics, we have talked of this is a system. If this is a system, anything outside the system is called the environment. Anything outside, anything outside the system is the environment. Now, in this case, in this case, suppose you are creating a factory. Human beings are also there to take care of this factory or the project. Now, the environment is that this project is, you will have the mankind outside, you will have the other animals, you will have the vegetation, you will have some other socio cultural impact, and you can think of many other impacts you can think of. Now, environmental impact assessment, you have to assess whatever it is happening. The animals means here you can talk of other animals which are impacted, and vegetation means you have got biodiversity, what is happening. So this has to be properly assessed, and the impact on the humankind has to be clearly stated out, and you have to propose certain actions. For example, I'll just tell you, in most of you will you have air conditioning at your home, and you have tasted the air conditioner, right? Now the air conditioners use some refrigerant which are very toxic, and some refrigerant which, when leaks into the environment, it creates a hole in the ozone layer on top, ozone layer. This particular chlorofluorocarbon, CFC, chlorofluorocarbon, they impact heavily on the ozone layer. Just let me write a few things. Refrigerant. Suppose you have a refrigeration plant. some refrigerant adversely affects the ozone layer and depletes it. Hence, a correct and factual assessment is required for that refrigerant Hence, a correct and factual assessment is required for that refrigerant to assess its impact on short-term basis and on long-term basis. Page number 2 plus. So, this refrigerant name is, there are few components which are very dangerous for the environment that has been identified. For example, these refrigerants are called the CFC refrigerant. What is CFC? Chlorofluorocarbon. CHLORO, fluoro, FLUORO, carbons. CFCs. Now these CFCs maybe are the real names are R22. You will know R134A, R12, ammonia, like that. These are the names of the refrigerant. Now you will find that these refrigerants, every refrigerant has got a potential called ODP. ODP is called ozone depletion potential. Ozone depletion potential. Ozone depletion potential. Now, out of which some refrigerants are identified as a major contributor to ozone depletion potential. They have got a very high ozone depletion potential. And the world leaders all over the world, they have agreed to phase out those particular refrigerant by 2000. For example, India has committed by 2026 they will get out of this the use of certain refrigerants. I don't recall right now what are the refrigerants we will do away with, but we have committed to the world that by 2026 these the refrigerants will be phased out. Similarly, similar actions are being taken on the alternative energy sources. That means non-conventional energy sources to lessen the impact of the coal-based thermal power plants on the environment. more investments are being made on solar energy, wind energy, and all other clean and green energy, so that the dependence on the fossil fuel, that is coal and petroleum and gaseous fuel, are lessened to a great extent. Right? So India has also committed like that. So these are the so first. How did you identify this? That this has got a uh, this particular refrigerant has got an adverse impact on the environment. How did you know this? Actually, the assessment has been done by the researchers all over the world, and they have published the result with documentary evidence and very verifiable data. And based on that, it is established, the world leaders have agreed upon, and because it has come from the scientific community with the scientific evidence, therefore the world leaders have accepted those the items or the agents which are responsible for environmental degradation. Okay, now next is we will talk about what was the agenda, components of EIA and outcomes of EIA. First of all, so in briefly we can also write why environmental impact assessment. Why? Because human well-being is closely connected to environmental sustainability. Human well-being is closely connected to environmental sustainability. As a result, all forms of human development such as building infrastructure, what are the infrastructure? That is roads, mines, etc., have an impact on the surrounding natural environment. Example, what are the example? Open cast mines, huge dams, large dams. Open cast mines and large dams. Oh, what is open cast mines? Usually, in the mining sector, what you do actually, you just make a sudan under the earth. You make a cavity, go inside, and then with just like a rat hole, you go everywhere, and you just harvest the coal. Now this is inside, and from the top you can't find out whether there is a hole inside or not. Open cast mines are not like that. Open cast mines are that you go that much of depth, but it is open to the environment. I mean, if you can Google, you can YouTube, you can see open cast mines. So it will go deeper as it is exposed, and the large excavators are excavating the coal. Huge amount of dust particles, coal particles, and all other particles gets into the air, and therefore a huge amount of air pollution is being impacted. That is called open cast mines. Large dams, when you have to, what is the purpose of the dam? Purpose of the dam actually is good, that you are trying to produce electricity out of the geographical position of water. Geographical position of the water means the water at higher altitude, water will always flow downwards. Now, if there, because of the contours of the earth, if the water reservoir, water is held at the top, and from there the water is controlled way, if it is through the dams, if it is passed through, and then at a high speed, and this kinetic energy, if it falls onto the blade of a hydraulic turbine, then what happens? You have got a constant source of a mechanical energy, that is, what is the shaft? We call it shaft power, or the mechanical power that continuously rotates. This continuously rotation of a turbine shaft is essential for producing electricity, because we know in these if we rotate if we rotate conductor in a magnetic field, it produces electricity. Now, how do you rotate a conductor? For rotation of the conductor, you need a constantly something has to be moved, something has to be rotated. But how would you rotate it? In the coal-based thermal power plant, it is the high pressure, high temperature steam which is being, through the nozzle, is being directed onto the wheel of the steam turbine blade. Therefore, the turbine shaft continuously rotates. Turbine shaft continuously rotates. Whereas, in case of hydroelectric power plant, what happens is that because of in the mountain areas, you have a large catchment area. I am using the word catchment area. What is a catchment area? Catchment area is the when the rain falls onto those areas, it ultimately, the small rivulets, ultimately small streams of water actually comes and converges onto a particular place and becomes a river kind of a thing and flows. You know all these things. You, in geography, you have learned upper course, middle course, and the lower course. All these things are there. Now, what you can do in that catchment area, the outlet, you just identify the outlet, and then you build a huge structural dam there, and you just hold the water in a big pool of water. You construct a dam, and a huge pool of water is being stored. And then, by controlled way, you pass that water through a what do you call through a conduit onto the blade of a turbine. The turbine blade will be at the bottom, the downstream side of the. When it falls onto this the huge kinetic energy carried by the water, when it falls onto the dam, the hydraulic turbine blade, the turbine blade starts rotating, and when the turbine blade starts continuously rotating, in that case, what you have to do, you just couple a generator along with that, so it produces electricity. Now, the advantage of hydroelectric turbine is hydroelectricity is that we do not produce any pollutants. We don't produce any pollutants because it's a water, and it is coming down there. So therefore, it does not produce, as far as the pollutants are concerned, it is not ejecting any pollutants. But what it is doing is that, because of the huge dam, it has to be constructed, and the water is to be passed through a channeled area. Therefore, large amount of human habitation is to be evacuated from that place. Suppose those people were accustomed to a certain class of rehabilitate them, but then the whole the dynamics of the socio-economic structure around that belt gets changed. Now, environment impact assessment also have to study all these factors, not only the pollutants, but also the socio-economic structure, socio-cultural structures, all how it is getting impacted. That has to be studied, and the reports are to be tabled to the person who are in power to take a decision, right? So the human well-being. I once again come back to this one. We have discussed open cast mines and large dams. Once again, we come back. Why NIA? Not NIA. Sorry. Why EIA? Environmental impact assessment. Human well-being is closely connected to the environmental sustainability. Those who are those of amongst you, those who are fond of debating, you may call that human well-being is closely connected to environmental sustainability. This particular language itself got a certain amount of selfishness. That is, we are only interested about the well-being of the human beings, as if, because human well-being is important, other well-being, other things are not important, as if. Now, that may be debatable, but then at the same time, since we have understood that our own activities, even though it is late, but then as we have understood that our own activities, so-called development activities, are creating our own grave, therefore it is time that we act. How should we act? We have to act, we have to assess that our activities, how much it is damaging the environment, and as a consequence, what are the impact on the human biodiversity, the impact of our activities on human beings, the biodiversity, other animals, and air, water, everything. What is the impact that we to assess? That is the objective of environmental impact assessment. Now, what are the benefits? Benefits, all of we can say, benefits of environmental impact assessment.
Sir, are you writing something? Sir,
Yes,
are you writing something?
I am. Just a moment. My video has gone off.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
just trying
Okay,
to
sir.
reconnect. I'm just trying to reconnect. Start. Is it now visible to you?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay, fine. So benefits of EIA. What are the benefits of environmental impact assessment? We make precise predictions. These predictions are verifiable. If you say that the prediction is that large stretch of the land in Tamil Nadu will become flat, then the data must have its verifiable component that people having just little bit of analytical bent of mind will agree that these precise predictions are true. Okay, number one. Number two, identifying various mitigating procedures. Various mitigating procedures. Procedures or activities. The word mitigating means to reduce. Therefore, suppose you identify the source of problem and then you cannot do away. For example, I was talking of the coal-based thermal power plant. We cannot start the plant tonight. Therefore, what you have to do, you have to make procedure as to how less this thermal power plant should be used less and less. Therefore, the investment next year, let us say, for example, I'm talking of the government. If it is sensitive, they say, okay, we shall invest more on solar power plants. We shall depend more on wind turbines, like that. So that is the identification of mitigating procedure. Mitigating procedure is that you just, once you identify a culprit, in order to if you cannot get away with the culprit, therefore you try to reduce the impact of that culprit to some extent by making some measures. So this is identifying appropriate mitigating procedure.